Hi everyone, I'm Hina Patel, Communications Manager at Equal Justice Works. We are here for another installment of My Impact, this time with Kyla Moore, a 2016 Equal Justice Works Fellow. So we are here today to talk with Kyla about how an Equal Justice Works Fellowship launched her career and to hopefully inspire law students to follow their passion for public service and equal justice. So thank you, Kyla, for taking the time to speak with me today.
Thank you, Hina. I'm very excited to be here.
So Kyla, let's start from the beginning. What inspired you to go to law school? Did you always want to be a lawyer?
Not actually. I have an interesting story. I endured a car accident and was on bed rest for a year and didn't really know what to do. It was after college. I was doing a cross-country road trip. Had just finished college and was excited to do that. And was recovering and was really looking for what was next and what options would be available to me. And my dad suggested I look at a books that was filled with like grad programs, and law school really piqued my interest. I've always really liked politics. I was a politics major and was really interested in the power of what law could do to change. If you can't change people's perspectives, you can change the rules that they have to follow. So that's really what got me into law school.
That's really interesting to hear. So following law school, you became an Equal Justice Works Fellow at Start Small, Think Big. It's a nonprofit organization that works with entrepreneurs to grow and sustain their businesses. How did you form that relationship with this organization?
Well, I have to go a little bit back for that. So I was interested in sort of public interest as a means to help my community. So I received a scholarship at University of Michigan called the Butch Carpenter. And in the scholarship application, you write about what you would like to do for the community with your law degree. And I spoke about my family members who constantly had side businesses that they didn't see as sort of a legitimate side. They saw it as a hustle. And these were serious levels of income and supplemented their lifestyle. And if they could get into a formalized set of regulations, they might be able to scale them up. And that's I actually won a scholarship for that application essay, and that sort of planted the seed. I did a law school study abroad. University of Michigan law allows you to do a summer externship abroad. So I did one at a Thai law firm, and it was at the time, so this would have been 2012, where they were just getting into alternative forms of financing, peer-to-peer funding and all that. And my job at the law firm was to review proposals and match it with a Thai versus New York law for alternative form of funding schemes that they were going to pitch to the Board of Investment in Thailand. So I was an intern looking to match the proposals, and that helped me think about the landscape. Thailand is known as and specifically Bangkok is known as the place of a million entrepreneurs because everyone has a street cart, everyone has something to sell. And I said, hey, to myself, we could totally do that in the US. Like there should be a funding for small business owners, specifically women of color who have least limited access to capital and financing and legal advice. So I had that idea in mind. I was literally in my tiny apartment in Bangkok sketching out ideas. I had a friend who worked at Google Small Business before law school, and she helped me refine some ideas about marketing and what would actually be helpful. And so I would just highlight two things in that. I used some knowledge of what I already wanted, but I also leveraged my network. And so I also used organizations like PSJD. There are lots of organizations that are interested in matching nonprofits with fellows of different kinds, right? There's other fellowships out there. Equal Justice Works is one of them. I saw 3 different organizations, pitched sort of to all 3 of them, and Start Small, Think Big was one of the ones that really matched with my vision and my project, which was to have a legal clinic for under-resourced women of color.
Did you have any connections with Start Small, Think Big before? Or were you just exploring those different organizations and that's how you found Start Small, Think Big?
I was exploring different organizations. I am a big cold caller. After college, I did a 1-year public interest fellowship, and half of our job was to go door to door and talk about projects and opportunities. you only need one yes, is what I say. And I'm willing to go through 20, 30, 40 no's. I mean, I think I only went through 25 organizations who said no. Two said yes. And one of them, the fit, they were looking for something different, and Start Small Think Big seemed to be a really, really, really great fit. That might sound like a lot to people, 25 no's, but I found my fit.
So through your fellowship, you were able to explore your interest in economic rights. Can you tell me a little bit more about that fellowship application process? How did you collaborate with Start Small, Think Big to design your fellowship project?
So because they're based in New York City, I had a lot of my statistics and information was based on Michigan and Detroit. So it was using the information that they had already had and gathered about what were the needs in their communities in the 5 boroughs in New York City, plus what I knew was capable and needed for people. So I took the Start Small Think Big at the time. The reason they were so eager for my project is mine were entrepreneurs who had less capital, whereas they were used to working with entrepreneurs who had a little bit of money to be able to put forth toward their services. And so I had more experience with that. And so we literally went back and forth putting ideas together. We wrote the application together. It was a collaborative process in building the application. I was in Thailand at the time, so it was lots of emails back and forth, lots of video calls. So don't let that stop you. If you're interested in becoming a fellow, all you need is the internet. So.
Well, that's great. Yeah, you don't just working across countries to get this done. That's amazing. It definitely feels like this was like a win-win for your host organization and for you. You were able to work on an issue that you were passionate about, something that you cared deeply about. And then Start Small Think Big was able to expand its legal services. During that collaboration, you had so many successes, but what was really memorable for you? What stands out? What did you really enjoy about being an Equal Justice Works Fellow?
Well, I enjoyed so many things about being an Equal Justice Works Fellow. One of them, obviously, is the conference, coming together, meeting other fellows, talking to them, hearing what they're doing. And it happens so early in your fellowship. It really does, like, give you a jump start of, oh, I can do this. And then also the collaborative process, sitting down with my supervisor at Start Small Think Big, and us thinking together about how to build out a project that would work for what I thought the community needed and what they saw as a need for them long term. One of my favorite stories is it was probably our second clinic. So we hosted clinics with my partner, with my sponsor law firm, Pillsbury, Winthrop Shaw Pittman. And maybe our second clinic, this woman, she comes in, she signs up, she goes through our process, and she needed us to review some insurance regulations. She was a small business owner and wanted to get placed in Walmart. And the attorneys not only helped her in the clinic, but she came back twice, which was allowed. And then they worked with her off-site on their own time. And I want to say by early the next year, because we started about November, by early the next year, she had a product in Walmart, and she sent us a congratulations. And it not only was it my first big win, but it was also showed me the impact of what can change. Just having access to 2, 3, 4 hours of free legal advice.
I think it's really great to hear about that collaboration. I think that's such a huge benefit in being an Equal Justice Works Fellow, is that opportunity to work with a sponsor to really increase your project's impact. So what about lessons that you learned as a fellow? Is there anything that you learned that you still carry with you today, either professionally, personally, or both?
Well, so I carry a couple things. One of them is take the initiative, right? With trying to define an organization who matches your goals. Like going to law school, you really learn how to search appropriately and use that to your advantage. Google is free, and you can, and lots of people have websites, and you know what keywords are. Take the initiative, and then don't stop once you find an organization and you build a project together. Once you're at the organization, how can you help? I think at the beginning of my relationship with the organization was also finding ways that my project was also a value add to what would happen after my 2 years was over. Like go to staff meetings if you're able to, and see how there are, opportunities to merge and invest. And additionally, finding clients. I had to reach out to the community and I would go to 9 a.m. meetings with there's a Harlem Community Development Fund and say, hey, I have this project, getting myself known to people who hadn't thought about what this opportunity was. Take the initiative. And then the flip side of that is once you take the initiative, you have to be you have to persevere. Like there will be roadblocks. Things will change. The plan you had at 6 months will not be the plan at 12 months. When you do your Equal Justice Works Fellowship, you get this chart that says where you want to be 6 months out. And that changed constantly based on what actually happened. So then I guess my third one is adaptability. Okay, so here's what you are now. You have new information, you have a new opportunity. What are you going to do now? And so taking the initiative, persevering, and then also being adaptable to what can come your way.
I think that's great advice for anyone, is to, take those initiatives to be able to adapt, especially when it comes to your fellowship. I was going to say, so now you work as a pro bono specialist at Willkie Farr Gallagher. What inspired you to take on this role, and how did you make that transition out of your fellowship?
So as my fellowship was coming to a close, I wanted to see a way that I could continue the work that I was doing, but with more resources, to be honest, and to work at a law firm and to see what it is the other side. So while I was in my fellowship, not only did I work with Pillsbury, but I had a rotating 6 law firms that I worked with that took on a clinic monthly. The transactional legal services clinic. And so I'd seen from that relationship with that pro bono representative that they were taking on 6, 12, 15 projects at a time. That sounds amazing. So found a really great match with Willkie, who was interested in expanding their transactional legal services as a pro bono component. Oftentimes transactional attorneys, corporate attorneys, finance attorneys, asset management attorneys, insurance attorneys don't get the same opportunities as attorneys at firms that are doing litigation. And so offering this opportunity to look at ways to collaborate, and found a really great fit.
Thank you for sharing. I think it's great to learn about this as a career possibility, particularly for like all the law students who are starting to think about how they want to use that law degree. Speaking of using your law degree in service of the greater good, Willkie has a longstanding commitment to pro bono. The firm has also taken on a number of initiatives to help those who've been affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. Can you share a bit more about some of these pro bono projects?
Yes, definitely. So during COVID, we have actually a lot of COVID-related pro bono. We're committed to it, and we also have an internal website where attorneys can go, and we post opportunities and trainings and resources for clients. Because when you think about COVID-related pro bono, you also have to think about existing things. So if you have a asylum matter, an immigration matter, how COVID delays and things are affecting the processing of green cards or asylum paperwork. So some of these things that we are taking on, so we're managing things that we currently have that are affected by COVID, as well as we are working with the small business owners through the City Bar Justice Center in New York, and also through the Houston Business Office, as well as the DC Bar Center. We're working with them and taking on clients who are having trouble navigating the Paycheck Protection Program, and giving them advice on what opportunities are out there for small business owners. We also are working with nonprofits to help them figure out what the next steps are, and what, if any, funds or opportunities are available to them. And also we're part of this network called Global Legal Solidarity. It's a series of law firms who've made themselves available for nonprofits to reach out to if they need access or to information that maybe a law firm can offer.
Yeah, it's great to hear about how Willkie's helping clients on such a broad range of issues, both existing legal issues and those arising from the pandemic. To close out this interview, I thought it might be helpful for you to share some advice for all the recent law school graduates. This is a very challenging moment in our country, and we just need more passionate leaders like you, who are going to serve their communities. Is there any advice you would give to law students who are getting ready to enter the workforce and want to take a stand in the fight for equal justice, but don't really know how or where to get started?
I would say something I think people have heard, but maybe undervalue: start local first. what you do on a daily basis, how you live in your community, how you speak out around the things around you. Everyone wants to make a big impact, and that's really nice. And for the people who can, that's great. But you can change lives daily around you. How am I affecting my community? How am I volunteering in my community? And by community, I mean a neighborhood. I was a transplant from Michigan, and I live in Newark, New Jersey. I immediately started volunteering where I was. I immediately looked like, where can I be of service? Where are the local shelters? Where are the job creation centers? I started doing resume review. I think when people think about making an impact in their work, they think large, and that's really great. But I'm happy to serve alongside people to review resumes and to use the skills I currently have to help people. Like, yes, feeding at homeless shelters is very nice and looks really great, but also, like, what can you do locally? Also, what is your organization? If your next job out of law school is at a legal services organization, what's their impact committee? What type of work are they engaging in? If you're at a law firms are really listening right now. So what committees are you on? What is HR doing? What are you and your colleagues doing? There's always a way to make change where you are, and those changes where you are make the big changes in a ripple effect. So that would be my advice, that this is a time to be more hopeful because people are listening.
Thanks, Kyla. That was really great advice. That was really great advice. I wanted to thank you for taking the time to speak with me today. I think it was such a pleasure getting to know you, learning more about your fellowship, learning more about your career following your fellowship. So thank you again for everything that you continue to do in the fight for equal access to justice.
Thank you.